Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on a multiple pass road project. My name's Erin. I'm one of our resident webinar hosts here at Softree. So to get started, I just wanted to quickly talk a little bit about what a multiple pass road project is. So we are not talking about a road project that goes through two mountain passes. We're actually talking about projects that have multiple alignments that are often designed in multiple passes or in multiple phases. And there's a whole bunch of typical applications or examples of these projects. They include intersections, temporary roads to bypass or for traffic to bypass construction, or where you're maybe even staging construction going from a 2-lane to a 4-lane road. So you'll want to do this in phases. And then there are structures such as retaining walls, and that's going to be the topic of today's webinar. So the concepts that we are going to discuss and the workflows we're going to demonstrate, all the fundamentals kind of apply to all these projects. And really it boils down to you can't do it all at once, and so you're going to need to do it in multiple passes. As I mentioned, this is not a simple single alignment road project, but this webinar assumes that you already know how to do this. So if you are new-ish to RoadEng and don't know exactly how we got to say, this little snippet that's up on the screen here, that's something you're going to want to go and check the fundamentals out. We've got lots of videos and example workflows available, and you can check those out. Today, though, we are, as I said, looking at a multiple pass project. And here you've got an abutment and retaining wall structures that we're actually going to be modeling through secondary alignments. These are going to represent structures and not roads. And we're going to end up somewhere like this. So that is, as I said, a really brief introduction. So multiple alignments done in multiple phases. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to our main presenter for today, David Mills.
Thank you very much, Erin. I better show my screen.
Excellent. While you get that up, a friendly reminder to all of our attendees, you are welcome to ask questions throughout the presentation. We will tackle them at the end. And if you're watching this on the future off of YouTube, again, type your questions in the comment section and we're happy to respond to them. Okay, Dave, your screen is up and showing.
Fabulous. Okay, so this is a road with a crossing. We've got a fairly substantial gully here, which we can see in the 3D window. And those of you who've used RoadEng for a while may not have got used to using the 3D window. It's quite handy, and we'll be using it a lot during this webinar. It's just another window you can pick from the bottom of the screen, lower left. We can see the alignment. We can see some points and lines in the 3D, but we need to show also the road surface. So I'm going to add a terrain. I'm using the 3D options here to get at the terrains and reference surfaces, but it's available in a lot of different places. So in this dialog box, I can add a corridor surface, and the corridor surface I want to add, there's only one alignment. I want to add the current alignment final merge surface, and I will pick this color here. Okay. So there it is. And I think I'll change a couple of other things too. I'm not going to display the lines. I'll just display the triangles of shading. Okay, so you can see here we've got a road design that is crossing the gully. I went to quite a bit of trouble to get the alignment so that it crossed roughly perpendicular to the gully with a zero grade for my bridge. I've set up where I think the abutments should be, and this is as far as you can go with a single pass. RoadEng is a cross-section model software, so when it goes from road, which we can see here, back to bridge, it's a sudden change. It goes from road to nothing, and so effectively the abutment is a vertical wall. And now we can do better. The other thing that we can see here is that I've got some spill going down the side hill, and we'll deal with that later. But let's look at the abutments for now. I'm going to open an existing alignment to save a few steps. In fact, this is really jumping ahead because you can see here I've got an abutment designed on the that's the west side. Anyway, the low station side of my bridge. I've already designed the abutment. I've got my surface for the alignment stopping where it hits the abutment. You can see that in the cross section. There I've got my road cross section, and it magically stops here where you can see the abutment in 3D. And now I'm going to make sure I can see it in the cross section. So in the cross section window, reference surfaces, I've got one called Abutment West, and I want to display that in my cross section and recalculate, and there it is. Now it's not so mysterious what's going on. So to get here, how did I get here? There's a couple of important features. Number one, the abutment was designed as an alignment. Number two, it is a merged surface so that the following alignment uses it instead of the original ground to tie off and fill down to, and so on. And let's go through the steps. So now I'm going to go to the east side of the road here and design the abutment. So the first thing I need to know is roughly where do I want to put it, and I think right on the edge of the well, that's where the template ends, right there. At the bridge template ends at 296. So that's roughly where I want to put my abutment, and I do that by adding a new alignment. So new horizontal alignment, and I'll call it abut east. I'm not sure what that coordinate is, although if I did know it, I could type it in here. I'm just going to take what I get, and I don't care about the cross-section template at the moment. I know for sure the default is wrong because that's a roadway, so I'll just leave it empty. So I've created a new alignment. I've now got 3 of them in here, and there's my first point. Now I'm going to use a little trick to put this exactly where I want it. I'm going to use Kogo to build this alignment, and I'll say, yeah, I want it to start right there, and I want to go out 5 meters. Now I know that the roadway has a well-defined direction. I can look it up just by switching over and using the horizontal and looking here at, yeah, that's at azimuth 114, this one. Yeah, so you can draw things, of course, in our software, and sometimes that's all you need. But if you want real accuracy, you can go into the horizontal curves panel. I don't need curves for my abutment, but that's the name of the panel. And you can add points with a well-defined azimuth. So this would be 24 to be perpendicular, and a well-defined distance, 5.5. I want my abutment to be 11 meters across, and that goes out like so. That gives me the end. That's the starting point I want, and then I'll just go back. So that would be now 204, 180 degrees turn, and 11 meters. Now my alignment is actually zigzag here. It goes out and then back in, so I just get rid of this point. And I've got an exact perpendicular 11-meter abutment top. And one more little trick, whenever you modify the first alignment point, in this case I just deleted it, you probably want to go back here and change your start station to 0. Okay. Oh, while I'm in here, I'm going to want to take a bunch of cross-section samples along here. So I'm just going to change the auto interval to 1 meter. This is a small alignment, so putting in a cross section every meter is probably what I want. Okay. Now I think I need to start looking in other windows. Let's just bring that back down and look at what's going on. Okay, let's look at the other side here. Just panning in the 3D, rotating in the 3D. There we go. What about elevation? Well, I know the elevation of my road, and I know therefore the abutment needs to be at a particular elevation. And again, I can try moving it around a little bit until I get the elevation where I want it, but it's easier just to type. So 246, that's exactly the elevation I want. Apply. And I want the other end to be similar, so I'll put something in at the other end and then just adjust the elevation. So now I've got the top of my abutment defined. Let's throw in a cross section. And I built a cross section template that models my abutment. And I'm going to assign it everywhere on the abutment feature. And there we are. So you can see what the cross section looks like. This is the cross section of the abutment. So we should see the road in there. Why am I not seeing the road? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One is because my cross section is off to the side, but even if I move it over, I'm not seeing the roadway. So again, there's the ability here to display in the cross section reference surfaces and reference alignments. I could make a reference alignment, we call it a reference feature, to represent the road, but I think displaying the surface is probably the simplest. So I'll just make sure that the road alignment is visible in the cross section. And there we are. So the road, the cyan line is above the abutment surface, and it'll fill down to it. Okay, well, it is filling down to it, and it's filling right through it. Let's turn on the display of the abutment. Oh, it's not in there yet. Abutment west is. I'll add abutment east. So I add a new corridor surface, abutment east. It picked that by default, which is just lucky. But normally you can change the alignment here and the color here. This is important. I need to merge this into my original ground so that the roadway will not go through it. The roadway will see it as being the surface that it works from. Okay, so I merge into topo surface, and there it is. It's created. My road's still going through it. Why is that? One more step. I just need to go into the Project Explorer and shift it up. So the roadway is calculated after the abutment. These happen in order, and then I need to recalculate range. So this is the kind of process you go through whenever you make two alignments that interact with each other, or in this case, three. Get them in the right order, merge the first one into the ground, and then recalculate all. And I'm not seeing what I wanted to see. That's weird. Of course, it always happens when let's just try and update display list. There we go. So one more final step to make sure the 3D is up to date. Sometimes you need to do that, but not always. Okay, there it is. That's basically done. We've got the abutment in perpendicular to the road so that I can get this nice shape going down the front, which is impossible from the road alignment. The road alignment, of course, like all of the alignments, is a bunch of cross sections, and there's just no easy way to model that abutment face. By the way, if you're interested in the template I used here, I'll just show it to you quickly. It's a very simple template. It has a daylight connector that goes from center line out to the left and daylights to ground, and then it has a Gabion fill on the right, which goes down as far as it needs to. it will extend down to 20 blocks or 0 blocks if you're underground. And I could have made one that worked in both directions, but I just make sure my feature is going in the right way. My road alignment is going in the right direction so that left is toward the road and right is toward the bridge. I don't think I need to show you anything more in the cross-section editor. So we've built a pretty nice abutment. Oh, I wanted to mention one thing in the template editor. I forgot. The roadway. That's this. Well, let's get to the roadway alignment. There it is. You can see here the roadway is stopping at the abutment. That's perfect. But that's also because I'm using the bridge approach component, which has no ditches. If I had used my default roadway here, you might see some ditches being created. Oh, why is it not showing me ditches? It did this when I was practicing, but it's not now. This one has ditches in it, and they can cut down into the abutment, which is pretty annoying. You don't want that to happen. So I did assign a template. Again, that's just a detail that I think most of you who are familiar with the software would understand. I had to assign a bridge approach template near the abutments so that there were no ditches. Okay, I'm mostly happy with that, but I'm seeing that the vertical edge now on my abutment, I really just moved the problem around. I used to have a problem with a vertical road abutment. Now I've got a vertical edge on the abutment feature. Can I deal with that? Well, yes, I can. First of all, this may be good enough. I may be happy with this. The volumes aren't going to change much if I put in a slope there. And modeling the bricks or the blocks, the Gabion baskets, may not be all that important to me, so I may be done, maybe finished. But one more step that makes it a little more realistic is to put some slopes on the ends. And I can do that quite easily. Let's just go into the abutment alignment, and I'll just change it so that the first point is down near the ground, maybe even under, no, just down near the ground is good. And then the next point is up here, and I'll just go into my vertical here and say, okay, well, that's going to be 1 meter in and at my proper abutment elevation 246. Good. And we'll do the same at the other end. So just move this one down to the ground. Make sure I go all the way to the end. Oops. And put another point in here. Get it close with the mouse and then set it exactly to 10 and 246. Have to click the apply button. And now you can see that's perhaps a little more realistic. And that's essentially the whole process. Now, one more thing I'd like to do is show you another application. So let's jump over to the place where it was falling off the model. And I'll do that by opening an existing alignment rather than, well, I could continue with this one, I think. Sure, let's continue with this one. So, as I said, in the road design, you can see, oh, it looks like it needs a recalc. It's not showing any line work on there. So just update everything. If you're uncertain, click all, and that'll do all the alignments. Okay, there we go. So here's my runaway fills, and yeah, it looks like that. You can see that in the 3D as well. Now, most of the time, you would deal with things like this by changing the alignment. So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to put in a point here and then move this into the hill. That's better. Move this back down here. I want to stay on that bench. Getting there. Okay. And we probably want to put some curves on there. I'll just throw in the default curves. I purposely left a little sliver. Well, it's not really a sliver. It doesn't go very far, but I purposely left a fill that may not be ideal. There it is. That's a large fill. And maybe that's outside my right of way. Maybe there's something I don't want to cover here, like a creek or somebody else's property or something. So, and there it is in the 3D. So how can I deal with that? Well, you can certainly deal with it by putting in a different cross section. And we have lots of, in fact, you could even put that Gabion wall cross section in here instead of a simple fill. But let's do it a different way. Let's create a new alignment that catches that slope. So I'll do that. It's pretty much the same as what we did before. I just need to go in here, create a new alignment, and go through that process again. So I'll call it wall. And again, in this case, I left the road template in there. Let's change that right away to the abutment. Works fine. It could be anything. A wall might not look like a Gabion basket fill. It might look like something else. But anyway, I'm going to use the same one. So there's my alignment. Let's go from here over to there. And that will create blocks going down the hill to block the roadway. And I can fiddle around with the position of this and the elevation of this and get it to be in the right position. And one way that I can do that is to make sure that I can see in here the slope. I'm going to want lots of cross sections in my retaining wall. And I may want to see that surface later, so let's throw it in here. Quarter surface, wall. Let's give it a different color this time. How about green? Oh, one more thing. That shouldn't be merged into topo. And I will want to shift it up, but for now, it's happening after the road. And so I can actually see, as I move along this alignment, I can see the road spilling down. There it is. There's the road going down past it. So it looks like maybe I want to go uphill a little bit. Maybe I want to put it about here. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to move it up like so. Okay. Oh, by the way, the slope stakes are not displayed. If I recalculate all, they will appear in my plan window for the existing alignment, and that sort of helps me find where I want to put this thing. And then I can also see it, like I say, in the cross sections. There's my cross section, and it looks like this is going to be a good spot if I get the elevation about there, and that elevation is 248. Okay, let's go with 248. Yeah, I think that'll work. So now, do I have the right extents here? Probably. It looks okay. Might be a bit too long this way. Maybe I'll move it back a bit. Okay, so 248. Here's my profile. I just lift this up to about 248. Same on the other side. go into here and make sure they're correct and exact. One of the nice things about building a structure this way is that the elevations and the grades are completely independent from the road. So if the road was sloping up, I can still make my wall horizontal. I may have to angle it a bit. If the road is going in one direction, my wall can go in a completely different direction. It's not tied to the alignment of the road in any way. I can put it where I want. Oops, I'm looking here and I can see that the road is spilling over the wall right about there, using my cursor to find that spot. So I'm just going to lift that end of the wall up a little bit, make it slope. And, maybe it's just not long enough. And that's easily fixed too. I can just go back a little bit. Or down a little bit. There we go. That's going to work. Okay. Now you can see the slope is going through the wall now, but we'll fix that. I did change the horizontal alignment, so I need to fix the vertical. Okay, and finally, let's go over to here and shift this up. And now recalculate, make sure I do them all. And yes, I need to update 3D display list. There we go. And now I can see in the wall what that looks like. The cross section looks like this. There's the road sitting on top of the wall. Or I can see in the road what the cross section looks like. And again, I've made a new surface, so I better add it. In the section options, I want to display a reference surface, and I see it's not there yet. I can get into that terrain surface dialog box here and add the new corridor surface from the, oh no, it's already in there, sorry, remove. I forgot I had already done that. Okay, yeah, it's already in there. I just need to make sure it's displayed. Well, that's all I wanted to show you with respect to multiple paths. And of course, there are other applications, as Aaron mentioned. We could be designing a road that is staged. So we do the 2-lane road, and then a year later we come back and extend it to be a 4-lane road. You can do that all on the computer by simply designing the 2 roads one after the other and making sure that the first road is merged into the ground so that when you build the second road, you're not double counting cuts and fills. Similarly, there are all kinds of structures that sometimes just don't line up with your alignment and you need to build them separately. So here we've illustrated 2, a retaining wall and an abutment. I'm sure there are others that you know would fit the bill. Now, I want to show where it kind of gets limited and just remind you that this is not the only way to do these problems. We've been, you've been able to do a similar solution with Road for a very long time. In fact, I've got an example open in my design here, in my browser, sorry, bridge site design using the terrain module. And this is old. It was updated in 2017, but I think the example has been around for a decade or two, and it involves using the terrain module to grade out and make surfaces and make structures and build a composite surface in the terrain module. So that's available. And I hope in the future there will be ways to build more complex surfaces using the location module. I know for sure we're working on this, and it's just a question of time, really. But I want to warn you against trying too hard to make the structure perfect. So I'm just going to, can I work right from here? I think I can work right from here. This is the east abutment. It currently looks like this. And wouldn't it be nice if we could just swing this around and continue the Gabion wall on the sides? And I'm going to try it, and you'll see what happens. So this is a cross-section model. Every point along the front of this abutment has a cross-section that goes back. And if I choose to add to that by, let's go into the right alignment and add a feature that goes back like so, and another one that goes back here. I also have to adjust my profile. That kind of makes sense. So let's take this end point and swing it up like that, and this one over like that, and make sure that those have the right elevation. Oh, did you see that? That was a warning about inconsistent triangles. And this is exactly the kind of problem that can happen when you have an alignment where the cross sections cross over each other and you're trying to make a surface. In this case, we're trying to make the brown surface, and the crossing cross sections cause inconsistent triangles, and it's kind of not working quite right. I've got my elevations more or less correct. I mean, if I want to be perfect, I'll set that to 246, but 246.2, there we go. How about that? So I got that warning. I'm seeing lots of messy slopestake lines here crossing over each other. And if I go into the 3D window and display without the road, let's take the road out. You can see that there are some glitches in there. That little glitch, the crossing cross sections, the boundary that kind of goes all over the place. This is not ideal. There's a solution, and the solution is to export this as a terrain file. So you can save as terrain, and where's the terrain? There it is, this one. Now I'm not actually going to export this, but you can set up various things such as break lines and what cross sections to use and make a surface in terrain. Let me just show you the results. So I did this already, and I spent a little bit of effort making the terrain more realistic by removing all the crossing cross sections. And here it is. So there's the abutment that I wrapped around the side of the road, and it's actually got Gabion blocks on both sides. There is one thing that I kind of scratched my head about. How could I get the, it's a cross-section model. So there's a cross-section here where the block width is on a diagonal, so it doesn't quite come out square. It's close. I could fix that too, but it would take a little more work moving all these points over. But you can see that I've got a reasonable surface. And in the old way of doing things, which is totally available in the modern software, there's no reason why you can't go back and do things using terrain. You would just take this surface and merge it into the original ground, and then use that to design your road. And you would see this as your original surface. So the good thing about the terrain method is that you can make the surface as accurate as you like. In terrain, it's pretty powerful. It's got grading tools, brake lines, etc. The bad news is that in the location module, you keep having to change the background terrain. So the topo terrain has to be changed. And if you make a change, you have to update. It doesn't take long to update. You just recalculate, but still, it's a back and forth process. Modify terrain, update location, take a look, see if it's okay. Not quite, go back, modify terrain. Whereas the multiple alignment solution, let me just open the one that's kind of finished, this one. It has everything in the location module. You've got multiple alignments which you can modify at any time and look at any time. And everything updates to show the current state without having to leave the software and save another file. And you may have to do some recalculation or, as I mentioned, update 3D display list. But basically, it keeps everything up to date for you. That's it. I see some questions. Let's get to the questions.
Awesome. Thank you, David. And just a reminder, if you do have a question on today's content, you can kind of expand that question section in your GoToWebinar panel. You can type it in, and all question askers do remain anonymous to the audience. So our first question is, can you model a 3D bridge in this type of project?
Yes, and we have some pretty nice examples of that. Unfortunately, I didn't save a link to one, but Matt, one of our support and demo people, has built a beautiful three-dimensional representation of a bridge that shows up in our 3D view. And it's easiest if the bridge is level, but you can even tilt it a little bit if you need to. And yeah, so I'm sorry I don't have a picture for that, but yes, absolutely. The bridge will not be a structure in the sense that it doesn't have any mechanical features. We don't engineer the bridge, but we can show a picture of it and a 3D rendering of it.
Excellent. Our next question, David, is, can you use another alignment to set your footing depth?
Yes, because any cross section, now here the footing depth is being calculated using the template component, and it has some parameters that decide whether it needs to dig down or not, put in a new block. But you can also tie components to reference features. And it turns out that reference features now, I can't remember when we did this, whether it was version 9 or version 10, but it's certainly available in version 10. When you add a new reference feature, you can choose a feature from your terrain, which is old school. It's been around for many years, but you can also choose any alignment. So you can refer to one alignment with another alignment and tie off your, in this case, footing to a reference feature which you designed in the location module. And of course, most reference features like that would not have a template assigned. They're just a line, a three-dimensional line that you design using the location module.
Okay, it looks like we've got at least one more question here for you, Dave. Can you use the multi-pass approach to accommodate multi-phase construction projects like a tote road or machine trails to access the top of cut or toe of fill?
Yes. What you would do for a tote road or any kind of pre-construction road is you just design it like any other road, merge it into the ground, and then continue designing after that. and it will be seen in your cross sections and in the ground as you design the rest of the construction process. So yeah, any kind of staging in the earthworks can be modeled this way.
Okay, David, another question's just come in. Is there a way to automate surfaces being created?
Yes, but you're going to have to wait till the next version is released. We're working on beta, and what's going to happen in the version 11 and probably the early beta versions is when you create a new alignment, there will be surfaces automatically attached to that alignment based on your preferences. So currently I have one surface for alignment 1. It's the final merge surface. I can set it up in the newer version of the software so that the final merge surface is automatically created whenever I create a new alignment, and it will have the color and properties that I've chosen. And I could, of course, have multiple surfaces too. It's okay to have two surfaces created from the same alignment. For example, well, if I change this from final merge to be subgrade, and then I can add a new one also on H-align 1, and this time I'll make it SRF1 layer above subgrade. Is that a good color? Sure. And recalculate. And there you can see my two layers on the terrain, on the 3D, sorry, and that could be a default setting so that new alignments always have those surfaces, or whichever ones you choose.
Awesome. Okay, everybody. Looks like there's no extra questions coming in, so we'll leave it there. This video should be up on our YouTube channel as soon as Shadia posts it within the next day. Stay tuned for future webinars. We will be updating our spring/early summer webinar calendar in the coming weeks, so stay tuned. Have an awesome rest of your day, everybody.
I know.